Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to take a look at the preseason debuts from all of the first round rookie quarterbacks, talk about the good, talk about the bad, and then of course grade each performance. And I really want to hear your thoughts down below as well. What did you think about all 5 of the rookie quarterbacks? Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, and then of course Justin Fields. So with that being said, let's jump in. Okay, so let's start with the first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. He was out there against the Cleveland Browns, and there is a small caveat that we do have to bring up, and I should have talked about it earlier, but when we're looking at Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, both of those players are scheduled to be the day one starters for their respective teams, so the sample size in the first preseason game is a lot smaller than the other 3, so we do have to take that into consideration. Obviously, they're not out there for 3 quarters on end. They only got a couple drives. So with that said, I thought Trevor Lawrence looked good. He was 6 of 9, 71 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked twice, but he did have a beautiful 35-yard throw to Marvin Jones where the offensive line gave him this great pocket, just an awesome pocket. Lawrence was able to hang in there, find Jones, put the ball right over the DB's head. Throws like that are why Lawrence went number 1 overall. The guy can be elite. Okay, but when we take a look at Lawrence's performance overall, we have to take into consideration the majority. He was going up against tons of backups here. Okay, so he didn't get that up close and personal look at Myles Garrett, but I felt like he was crisp. He was on time. The footwork was great. He wasn't perfect. He definitely missed a couple throws here and there, but I felt like Lawrence, for the most part, understood where to go with the football. He had the command of the offense. Surprisingly, there was actually a lot of screens, just getting the ball out of Lawrence's hands quickly to guys like Laviska Shenault, a player who I feel like can be really productive. And, in this offense with Darrell Bevell coming in from Detroit, and by the way, Marvin Jones is coming over from Detroit as well, so I do expect Jones and Lawrence to have that potential long-term connection throughout the course of this year, which could be an underrated signing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, because he wasn't one of the top 5, top 6 wide receivers on the market, but for me, I'm giving Lawrence a B+. He had an above average night. Again, super small sample size, wasn't playing against the ones, but at the end of the day, Lawrence can't dictate who the Browns roll out on defense. He can't say Myles Garrett needs to play. He can't tell his coach, I'm playing every quarter. I'm taking every single snap in this matchup. So he went out there, he handled his business, he did what he needed to do, and he showed off a lot of great traits. So B+ for me. Next up, the second overall pick in the draft, Zach Wilson going up against the New York Giants. And much like Trevor Lawrence, Wilson had a small sample size. He was playing against the 2s and the 3s, and he also went 6 for 9, crazy enough. He also had 63 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, wasn't sacked, and he had 2 10+ yard passes. So again, given these small performances, we have to take what we can. And when we look at Zach Wilson, there was a lot on display. The arm strength was there. The accuracy was evident. The quick release was on full display. The mobility on bootlegs. I felt like, much like Trevor Lawrence, he had command of the offense. He always knew where to go with the football. It's not like he was hanging back there for 6 seconds, going through all of his reads and, just slicing the defense apart. Again, he was only in there for a couple drives, but I felt like, for the most part, he knew exactly where to go with the football. Wide receivers were separating, and he was hitting guys in stride. That's what you want to see. I felt like an underrated part of this offense was the offensive line play. I can't even remember Zach Wilson on the ground. Did his jersey even have a stain on it? A single grass stain? I don't think so. Wilson was great at the end of the night. And yeah, you can make an argument, hey, no Leonard Williams, no James Bradbury, no Adoree Jackson. A lot of Giants were missing in action. That is 1,000% accurate. But here's the deal. A lot of what Wilson was doing was applicable to the regular season, to meaningful snaps. Again, hitting guys in stride, forming that connection with Corey Davis early in the matchup, just being able to know where to go with the football. Obviously, we're going to be handing the football off a lot with the Mike LaFleur system. Getting into 3rd and shorts, that's the whole goal here, using play action, using bootlegs to your advantage, and really trying to catch the defense off guard, really keep them guessing. A lot of smoke and mirrors with pre-snap motions and whatnot. We didn't see that in preseason, but the goal of this offense is to slowly but surely pick up yards, not huge chunk plays like the Kansas City Chiefs, where the quarterback is holding on to the ball for 8 seconds and he just fires the football downfield. It's based off the run game. Okay, so given what we saw from Zach Wilson against the New York Giants, for me, I'm giving it an A-. Was he perfect? No, he missed a couple throws, but he didn't turn the ball over. Again, a lot of things were on display. A- for me. Next up, the third overall pick, Trey Lance, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this one, to be honest, was a little weird because depending on what angle you look at this performance from, it could say a different thing, okay? But I really feel like there's more than meets the eye with this performance when we really take a deep dive, because on paper, when you're just comparing stats to stats, Lance to Mac, Lance to Lawrence, the numbers aren't impressive. 5 of 14, a touchdown, great. No interceptions, 128 passing yards. He was sacked 4 times in the first half. So obviously the numbers don't paint the prettiest picture, but we have to take into consideration the Chiefs defense had tons of starters all over. I mean, Chris Jones was dominating. That defense came ready to play. They were in like full attack mode. I felt like Lance was under duress the entire night. I mean, man, Lance had a lot of pressure in his face. I don't know why, but it just seemed like the Chiefs, it was almost like a regular season game for Kansas City. It was crazy. We also have to factor in there were numerous drops that the 49ers wide receivers had. I mean, Lance put the ball on the money a couple times, and they just went right through the hands of a couple, pass catchers. So we have to factor that in. We can't just look at the numbers alone, as just a black and white statement and say, okay, 5 of 14, not that efficient, not good, horrible night. We have to take a look at what exactly happened. I felt like under center, Lance was pretty clean. And as we all know, North Dakota State, they run a lot of stuff with their quarterbacks under center. So the expectation is that Lance's transition to being under center at the NFL level will be pretty seamless, will be pretty effortless. And I felt like it was there Saturday night. When we take a look at the arm strength, man, that was also on full display. Obviously we have the whole play action pass where he rolled out to his left and fired pretty much across the field. It was pretty reminiscent of the Zach Wilson Pro Day throw, to be honest with you, but it was a fantastic play by Trey Lance to the 49ers offense, specifically that pass catcher by the Niners. The play that stood out to me was when the 49ers were backed up in their own territory. I think there was around a minute left in the second quarter, and the Chief defender made a great play on the ball. It ended up being incomplete, and you can make an argument that it should have been intercepted, but when we're just looking at pure velocity on the football, try to go back and find that play. Trey Lance threw an absolute missile. He threw a bullet. Like, the cameraman hardly caught up to the football. And if your quarterback possesses that type of arm strength and your head coach is Kyle Shanahan, it's scary to think about what the offense can do. I really feel like there's no ceiling with Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, you can't really push the ball downfield on a consistent level, but with Trey Lance, you now have that capability. So for me, I'm giving Trey Lance a B- with everything taken into an account. Again, the numbers weren't really there, but I mean, he was going up against the best talent out of all of these guys. I mean, you look at the drop passes, he had multiple drops. I mean, off the top of my head, he had 3 drops right in the breadbasket of wide receivers, right through their hands. And, if those wide receivers would have caught those passes, the numbers would have looked way better. So for me, you can make an argument maybe C+, B-, but I'm going to roll with a B-. Next up, we have Justin Fields taking on the Miami Dolphins in Soldier Field. I felt like Fields was electric. I felt like he did a lot of really good things, and I feel like Bears fans should be pretty excited based off of how Justin played in his first preseason action. I mean, he looked poised, the mobility was there, the arm strength was there, the overall ball placement was there as well. He was 14 of 20. 142 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, a rushing touchdown as well, and on top of that, he also had a 30-plus yard pass play, okay? So I felt like overall, Justin Fields looked comfortable. He looked comfortable back there. He looked like he could hang in the pocket. When he wanted to escape, he did, and he did that effectively. He picked up a lot of yards, there was a lot of positive plays on the ground for Fields, but just rolling out, extending the play when the pocket would break down, I mean, for the most part, I felt like the Bears offensive line did a solid job, but when they did break down and when the Dolphins defensive line did get after Fields, he was able to escape and make plays. That's what you want. And I feel like, yeah, Andy Dalton is mobile to a certain degree, but Fields just adds that extra element that Dalton and Foles cannot give you. Now, Fields here and there did have a couple so-so throws. He should have had an interception on his stat sheet. It was dropped by the Miami Dolphins, but when you look at that coverage by the Dolphins secondary, I mean, they were blanketing the Chicago Bears wide receivers and their pass catchers overall. I mean, the Dolphins if you're a Dolphins fan, you have to be really encouraged watching that game, watching your secondary members. And yeah, it wasn't the Xavier Howards of the world and Jones and whatnot, but I mean, for the depth of that team, Brian Flores is working wonders with that secondary unit. But going back to Fields, I mean, 14 of 20, pretty efficient overall. And again, some of those incompletions were just fantastic plays made by the Dolphins secondary. So for me, I'm going to give it an A-. I felt like going into the game, Fields, there was a lot of expectations around Justin Fields, trading up, first round pick, you have Foles on the roster, you got rid of Trubisky, they signed Andy Dalton. But with Justin Fields going out there and just looking calm and comfortable and almost essentially a point guard where he was passing the football around, yeah, he did check it down a lot, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I would rather check it down and get a gain of 4 than a sack and a loss of 6 or an incomplete or an interception. So checking down is completely fine for, young quarterbacks, especially in their first preseason game as well. And again, the Dolphins defense, they were flying around the football field. They looked pretty good. So for me, an B+, A-, but I'll round up and go with an A- for me. Next up was Mac Jones of the New England Patriots taking on the Washington football team, and Mac was actually the first rookie quarterback out of this bunch to make his debut, but I feel like the biggest thing that stood out to me about Mac was the quick release and the accuracy. Now, we didn't really get to see Mac uncork one down the field a lot. Pretty much everything was underneath, crossing patterns, checkdowns, and stuff like that. Again, much like Fields, it's not a issue. It's not, a negative by no means. Of course, you want to see a rookie quarterback, throw for 4 touchdowns and fire it all across the football field. But we have to take a look at the offense as well. This offense isn't this high-flying, crazy circus where passes are just being fired 40 yards downfield left and right. This is a pretty conservative offense when it comes to the passing game, and Mac went out there and handled his business. He was efficient. He was putting the ball in play. The quick release was there. The accuracy was there. I felt like anything underneath the ball, the wide receivers did not have to slow down at all. They didn't have to stop in their tracks, walk, come back to the ball. Every pass was right where it needed to be, and that's really encouraging. I felt like Mac operated the pocket really well. He wasn't one of those guys like, Daniel Jones, where he snaps the ball and just stands in one spot and just doesn't even move, staring at one guy, waiting for him to get open. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have guys that snap the ball, do a quick look. If he is not open, they're bailing. They're leaving the pocket early. Mac operated the pocket really well. The one play that stood out to me was early in the third quarter. I believe it was on a third down. Mac dropped back and fired a missile, and it was a completion for a first down. It was a great throw. Just layered it right in between the defenders. And if you're a Pats fan, you have to be pretty encouraged from that. But all in all, when you take a look at the numbers, 13 of 19, 87 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Based off of that stat line, you can just tell there was a lot of screens, there was a lot of checkdowns, just a lot of things happening up towards the line of scrimmage, which again isn't a bad thing. But for me, I'm going to give Mac a B- to a B. I felt like he went out there, handled what he needed to do, and he did what the offense called for. He didn't make any crazy mistakes, throwing into triple coverage constantly, nothing like that. Again, the quick release and the accuracy were on full display. So for me, B-. But based off of these grades, honestly, from what I took away from all of these rookie quarterbacks' performances, they all impressed me. They all looked solid. They all looked capable, and they all looked, I know this is super early, but they all looked like potential franchise guys. Preseason week 1, you couldn't ask for much more. You never really see guys throw for 300 or anything like that in the preseason. But, from Mac to Fields, Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, I thought all of these guys showed promise on Saturday, or in Mac's case a little earlier. But anyway, it's going to be crazy to see what happens in the second week of preseason. Let me know your thoughts and your grades down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.